Parak Mishamei, Stav Kuftnun Tes, sponsored L'Refuah Shlema for Yehudis Bas Nechama. The Gemara defines a certain ruling as Zuhi Shekasha B'dinim Amanus. This is a difficult monetary law to understand. It analyzes many rulings to determine which one is illogical. The first sent from Eretz Yisrael. Number one, a son sold his father's property during his lifetime, anticipating inheriting it, and consequently died before his father. His son, the grandson, concedes it from the purchaser, claiming his father had no right to sell it. The Gemara claims this law is illogical. Land sold by a father is not included in a son's inheritance. However, the Gemara retracts. It brings a verse from Tehillim, Tachas Avosecha Yiyu Banecha. Based on this verse, a grandson can claim rights to inherit directly from his grandfather, not only through his father. Therefore, this cannot be the ruling that is Kasha Shebedinim Amadis. The Gemara suggests another. Number two, firstborn sold his firstborn portion and died before his father. The grandson can claim it from the purchaser. This is illogical. The grandson was not the grandfather's firstborn. Even if a grandson inherits in place of his father, his right of inheritance applies only to the Chelik Pashut. However, again, the Gemara retracts this argument, claiming the grandson replaces his father, even in respect to the firstborn share. Therefore, this cannot be the difficult ruling. The Gemara suggests another. Number three, one who signed the document and subsequently stole cannot verify his signature, but others who recognize it can. This is illogical. If his integrity is in question, perhaps he forged and predated it to the time before being suspect. The Gemara answers the intent is not for them to verify the suspect's signature, but to verify the henpeck's signature. A court certification of a document signed by witnesses. This indicates the document was valid when the henpeck was written. Therefore, this is not difficult ruling. The Gemara suggests another. Number four, one signed a document of one who eventually became his father-in-law. He cannot from that time verify his signature, but others can. If the concern is he may have signed dishonestly in his father-in-law's interest, it is illogical to accept verification of another. However, the Gemara answers a disqualification of a relative may not necessarily be based on a suspicion of a dishonest testimony, but based on a Torah decree. Number five, the Gemara reverts to the original ruling where the grandson claims the land from the purchaser. The Gemara rejects the verse that replaced him for his father. It is simply a blessing a father should merit children following in his footsteps. There is no proof that a grandson inherits directly from his grandfather. Therefore, the ruling is difficult to understand. Anything the father sold, he does not bequeath. A previous Mishnah states, in a case where a house collapsed on a father and son, Yorshei ha'av omrim haben meis kodem. Initially, it was assumed the reference to the father's heirs was the grandson. The Gemara concludes it refers to the father's other sons, not his grandson. The Gemara proves from a brayso in our Mishnah that an only son whose death preceded his mother cannot inherit her in his grave to bequeath her estate to his paternal brothers. Proof from a brayso. Father and son died in different places. It was not known who died first. The ruling of the brayso is their heirs divide the estate. However, if understood literally as father and son, their heirs are the same. The ruling divide makes no sense. The Gemara explains the two deceased is a grandson and a maternal grandfather. There are two lines of inheritance. If the grandson died first, his paternal brothers have no right. But if the grandfather died first, then the grandson's brothers would inherit. However, if a son inherits his mother's estate, even in the grave, it does not matter who died first. His paternal brothers would inherit. The law would not be divide. Therefore, he does not inherit his mother in the grave. Proof from the Mishnah. Nofal abayis olav imo hakom modim yachloku. If a house fell on him and his mother, the heirs divide. Again, it is evident that the deceased son does not inherit in the grave. Reason. There are two verses in the Torah denying transferring an ancestral inheritance. One teaches a husband and the other a son do not inherit a wife or a mother from her grave. The chapter concludes reconciling apparent contradictions of Rav and Rav Nachman. A man sold all property he bought from Bar Sisin, claiming one parcel he owned had that name, but was not purchased from him. Rav Nachman claimed it belonged to the buyer, whereas Rava claimed it belonged to the seller. In a similar case, they reversed their opinions. One challenged another for a house he claimed he purchased and lived in it for 3 years. The challenger claimed he lived in the inner part of the house, the occupant being his guest. Rav Nachman claimed the occupant had to prove he lived there alone. Rava held the burden of proof is on the challenger to prove he lived there together with the occupant. These rulings seem to contradict. The first case, Rava favors the seller, and in the second favors the occupant. Rav Nachman favored the buyer in the first case, and now the challenger, the alleged seller. The answer. Rav is consistent. In both cases, he attributes precedence to the occupant. Rav Nachman attributes precedence to the buyer in the Bar Sisin case because it is likely that all the properties with that name were purchased from him. The second case, he demands proof the occupant lived there without the original owner, just as he would demand the occupant certify a document of purchase the challenger claimed was forged. If you're enjoying Daf and 5, please click on the link below, subscribe, and become a sponsor. Thank you.